Hi, Robin with Oxy-Dry, and it's Sunday, and of course I'm not working. I did a big job yesterday. It took me about 5 hours. It was about $1,200, and I was tired by the end of that one. Um, I find that the bigger jobs, because I work right all the way through, I find I don't have the energy that I did 10 years ago. Um, but anyway, it was a great big house. Probably it was worth the house was worth probably at least $6 million, maybe more. Right on the lake. It's kind of like built like a castle. Kind of cool because it had a courtyard in the middle. The house was kind of built around this courtyard, up 2 stories, and there was a pool right in the middle of this courtyard, which of course would have kept it from the wind blowing and whatnot. But anyway, and they're right on the lake. But the lady that owned the place, she actually this wasn't their main house. They live actually in Calgary, and this is their getaway house. Like, go figure it. But the house, the lady that takes care of the house cleaner. I've done work for in houses that she cleans before, and she saw some of the work that we did, and was so impressed that she said the owner of the house, when they were talking about getting the carpets cleaned, she said, you've got to get Oxy-Dry, because they've got, she's seen what we did, and realized that we were really good at what we did. So all I do is try to do the best I can, and anyway, it pays off. Which kind of brings me to what I wanted to talk about today, because I actually had I guess it was a few months ago, I had somebody message me, and they were very concerned about a development that had happened in their area. And so I want to address that because it is a concern that we owner operators certainly um, may. Some of you have already addressed this in your own way, but particularly the guys that are new into the business, it's a bit of a scary thing when this occurs. Anyway, and he has, I'm not sure how long he's been in business. I can't remember whether this was Glenn or Brent. I can't remember one of you guys. I think it was Glenn, actually, come to think of it. Messaged me and said that Oxyfresh had moved into his area. And of course, that's a concern because you're an owner operator and you try to run your business, probably you're family oriented or whatever, and you're not a big franchise, and it's a bit intimidating when a franchise comes into town and all of a sudden you realize, oh, these guys have got, they're all across North America or whatever, and they do millions of dollars a year, and how can I compete against this? So I want to tell you how you can compete against this, and because I actually had this very same scenario happen in my case. And I want to tell you how I did it. And it'll surprise you because I kind of did what most would say you shouldn't do. But here's what I did. I guess it was about maybe 5 years ago or so that I first heard of Oxyfresh. And of course, um, Oxy-Dry is the name of my business. I've been around longer than they have. And it was about maybe 5 years ago or so that I suddenly began seeing Oxyfresh videos on YouTube. And as I it attracted me right away because like, oh, Oxyfish, that's very similar to my name. What's this all about? And so I watched a few of their videos, and I saw that what kind of an operation they were. Obviously, I saw that they were a franchise, and I realized pretty quickly that they were using CRB machines. They were marketing as a low moisture process, and they were also advertising that they were the greenest cleaner around or whatever it is, however they worded it and whatever. And although I wasn't, I guess I did go on their website. I must have, and I saw 3 rooms, $89 or whatever it was. And so I made mental note of that, and I thought, these guys are probably going to grow pretty quick, because a franchise I assumed would be probably big, that they don't really actually have it's not a truck mount, obviously. So I would guess that a franchise would sell for maybe between $30,000 and $40,000, which is, I believe, is what they sell for. And so this would be pretty easy for somebody to get into, and I didn't know a lot about how they operated at that point in time, but I did recognize that, number one, that they had a name very similar to mine. So that was my first concern. And my second concern was that I thought to myself, I bet that they expand into Canada within the next few years. And that was like an alarm bell in the back of my mind. And I went, okay, what am I going to do? If they arrive in my town, how will I deal with this? Because I could see the future that they would come, probably. So anyway, I thought about it for a while, and the first thing that I did is I decided that I would create I created a logo, and because one of the things that I talked about with my wife, we talked about one of the things that we do in this business is we talk a lot about how we're green. And I looked around at all the carpet cleaners around here and everything, and I realized that a lot of guys are saying in their advertising that they are a green cleaner. And I thought, everybody says that. It becomes meaningless if everybody says the same thing. So I decided to change, rather than mark it as a green cleaner, I would mark it as, I came up with a new thing, and here it is, right here. Can you see that little logo there? Hopefully it's not backwards for you. Maybe it is. But anyway, if you go on my website, you'll find it there. And what it is, it says fresh, and it's green. So I took the word fresh because I thought I liked, and with Oxy-Fresh, I liked, fresh. That's a good word. I like that word. But I decided that I would take that word and put it into my marketing, so that if they came into town, that the word fresh would already be associated with Oxy-Dry. And I have it on the side of my van, a great big logo. It says fresh, natural cleaning, or whatever it says there. I can't remember what it says. But anyway, so that was one of the first things I did. I wanted to dilute their name, assuming that they would come. The other thing I did is we took the phrase, your fresh choice, and we trademarked it, and it became part of all of our marketing. So this was like at least 4 years, 4 years ago, I guess now. So I did that, and the other thing I did is I increased my pricing a little bit. Now, I know that doesn't make sense. You'd think, well, wouldn't you come up with compete against them? They would advertise $89, so you've got to, try to match their price or whatever. But they weren't even here anyway yet. And I also realized that simply reacting to somebody who markets price with another lowball price just means that you're both heading for the down the drain, seeing who gets there first. Because you can't market pricing anymore. That was 1980s, okay? You can't do that because we can't survive on this idea of high volume and lowball pricing, get in the door and upsell kind of a thing. That doesn't work for an owner-operator, and I'll get to that in a sec. So I did those two things, and I decided I said to my wife, I said, okay, I want you to give me a little bit less work in the day. I actually hired somebody who helped me, and the reason was so that I would be able to spend more time communicating with the customer, and also really focused on just improving the overall, whatever I was doing, I wanted to get better and better. And also, the other thing we did is we increased what we included in the service. Now, obviously, already we were including sanitizing and deodorizing, um, and the protector, but I also I initially started with one product, which was an anti-allergen that I could put into my cleaning product. But then about 3 or 4 years ago, I'd also discovered the advantages of ClO2, and I incorporated that into the cleaning. Initially, I was going to charge extra for it, and then I decided, no, I'm not going to charge extra for that. I'm going to include that as part of our product package. And the reason was because, assuming that they would come, I knew that OxyFresh, they would probably advertise pretty heavily, and that would always be about price. And I wanted to be able to have something to counter their pricing, which would be including everything. In other words, what would happen, and I'll get to that in a sec, but I'll continue on the story. So now, it was probably about a year or so, maybe a year and a half, that I suddenly realized when one day I was driving along and I saw the first time I saw the Oxy-Fresh vehicle drive by, and I realized, okay, they're here now. And I went and did a bit of research, and yep, they were definitely here. And then that was when I learned a few different things about them. I think that I probably called the number just to ask some questions. And one of the things I realized pretty quickly was, and as an owner operator, you need to know this. They, as a franchise, have a serious weak point, a few actually. And as an owner operator, you have some significant strengths. And the most significant strength you have is you. And you have the freedom to choose to do whatever you want. You can choose to use any method you want. You can choose or machine you want, or product you want, or marketing you want, or pricing you want. This poor guy that bought this franchise is absolutely locked into a contract where he has no freedom. He can't react to the market, and he can't react to you. Because the first thing is that OxyFresh answers their phone in Denver. I don't know if you guys realize that, but here in Canada, if you tell somebody that, call this company and they're going to answer the phone in the USA, in Denver, they're going to go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, I don't want to deal with that. I want to deal with local. That's a really important thing here in Canada. And maybe it's a much more important thing maybe in your state, wherever you are, if people realized, wait a minute, they're going to answer the phone in another state? Are you serious? They actually make the appointments for the operator. Now, that's an important thing to bear in mind. They can't, and that means that, by the way, that if there's something going on during the day where they want to communicate, the customer wants to communicate with the operator for whatever reason, I'm going to be later than I expected. I'm coming home later than my appointment time, or I got to change something, or whatever it is. The fact that they have to go through a answering service really hinders their ability to react to the situation. The other thing is that as a franchise, first of all, don't forget they paid $30,000 or $40,000 just to have that name and to have that system and whatever. I mean, that's a lot of money they got to pay back, and they have to earn it with their own, sweat. So they're already in debt. That doesn't even include their vehicle, by the way. So they're already in debt right off the get-go. And the other thing is that they don't have a choice for which equipment they have to buy from the franchise. And I have no idea what they pay for their machinery, but probably they're going to be paying more than what they would have to pay for something similar from someone else, independent. I don't know what the cost of their machinery is, but their product they also have to buy from them. And here's the really important and interesting thing that I didn't realize this at first. They have to buy their advertising from them. Now, they probably pay for the actual distribution of the advertising on this end, and the only advertising they do, at least that's all they did in my area, and I assume it's everywhere else, they didn't have any phone book ad. Now, this was a few years ago, so phone book ads most people were still using them. All they have is a bold listing in the phone book, and then it's and a 1-800 number, which is another really important thing to remember, and is a bad thing. But they only advertise, at least in my area, and maybe it's not the same everywhere, but I'm just going to assume that it is. They only advertised in the Valpak, a coupon in the Valpak, and that was it. About every 4 months, Valpak would come out. There'd be a whole bunch of different flyers in there, and at least one other carpet cleaner, a steam cleaner, who advertised about the same sort of an idea. 3 rooms, $89, and 5 rooms for $140 or whatever it was, and of course at the bottom it always said topical treatments, stain guard, and disinfectants or whatever, extra or whatever in small print at the bottom. So they arrived, and so I talked to my wife about it, and said, okay, here's how we deal with this. And what was really interesting was we really realized a couple of things right away. And I said to my wife right from the get-go, I said, I give them 2 years, 3 years at the most, when I realized exactly how they operate. And here's how they operate. Oxy-Fresh is a business that sells franchises. That's their business. The guy that bought the business, in almost every case, has not ever owned a carpet cleaning business before. Because if you're a carpet cleaner, you've been in this business for a few years, I guarantee you that there'd be very few of you that would ever think, I know how to be successful. I'll go and buy an Oxy-Fresh franchise. You would never do that because you know you don't need to. Why would you spend tens of thousands of dollars to give somebody hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month to do something that you could do anyway? I mean, it's just really, really a great way to just get rid of your money. But anyway, the thing is that at $89 for 3 rooms, now, of course, they're obviously going to try to upsell because that's how the business model works. The idea is they advertise a lowball price that nobody can refuse, but they get in the door, and at $89, they're absolutely losing money every time, unless they can upsell it enough. But here's the problem. A business like that will not, if the owner-operator of that franchise, he goes out and he cleans carpets all day long, he would have to do a tremendous amount of volume in a day in order for him to make a decent living. The way it works is they have to have at least 2 or 3 vehicles on the road before the owner of the franchise actually starts to make a decent living. And if they can't get to that point within a year or 2, they're doomed. Because he will then begin to realize, it'll take about a year or so, he'll begin, because they'll always, oh yeah, you got to just keep at it and work at it and everything will work out fine, you'll do great. And of course it depends on the market too, and I guess every market is different. I mean, obviously every market is different, but it's not that simple. And you as an owner-operator, what we did is, of course, now what happened is we started to notice, my wife who does the answering of the phone, and this was really quite interesting. She would often get phone calls from people right after the coupon, the Valpak would go out, and the phone would ring, and she it was really quite funny because they would say, I've got your coupon in my hand. What? And my wife's like, well, we don't do coupons. And they say, well, it says here you'll do 3 rooms for $89. And my wife is like, oh, wait a minute. You're not talking, that's not our coupon. That's a completely different business. That's Oxy-Fresh. And they'd say, oh, well, what's the difference? And so she'd say, well, she'd talk about who we were, the fact that we were owner-operated Canadian business, and that our pricing was by the square foot, and here's how it worked. We include sanitizing, deodorizing, anti-allergen treatment, and a protector, and the carpet dries in about an hour. In almost every case, even though they had the coupon for $89 in their hand, the person would almost always book with us, even though if they had, say, 3 rooms, and it would be, say usually about maybe 400 square feet. So my wife would say, if it's 400 square feet, it would work out to about $200. we would almost always book the job. Now, isn't that interesting? And what was really fascinating, and maybe you caught this, is they had the coupon from Oxyfresh in their hand, but they phoned the Oxy-Dry phone number. Now, isn't that interesting? Now, why would that be? And that is because the coupon had a 1-800 number on it. And you go, oh, I don't want to phone a 1-800 number. And then they'd look up Oxy-Dry and they'd phone our phone number because we had a local number. Or maybe perhaps it had something to do with them recognizing us, because by that time we've been around over 20 years. And we've been, and so we're much more recognized. It's kind of funny because sometimes people will say to me, yes, I see your vans around all the time. There's only one Oxy-Dry van. But anyway, and then of course the other issue that began to happen is I realized that they were around, and I actually I didn't realize that I had seen at least one job they had done where they had tip loomed the carpet all over the place with the CRB machine. And then over the next couple of years, I've seen at least a dozen or more carpets that they cleaned that are tip loomed, and you can actually see even under the furniture where they put the machine, the carpet is tip loomed, and I've run the vacuum over it and even cleaned the carpet, and I can't reverse it because in some cases those CRB machines will tip loom carpets. I've seen it many times. But then what happened is, I guess it was oh, just one little segue here. Bear this in mind too. Now, if you're using an OP or a rotary machine, you're able to do high volume commercial, like condo hallways or whatever, quite easily and quite quickly. But with the machines they're using and the way that they do it, they're going to be take them a lot longer to do that. And the other thing is that if you've seen their advertising, they're really all about carpet cleaning and have nothing or very little about furniture cleaning. They really would rather not do furniture for lots of reasons. But anyway, just bear that in mind too. But anyway, within about a year or so, no, it was actually almost 2 years, I guess. All of a sudden, on the local internet listings page, I would always look. I don't do it so much anymore, but I used to almost all the time, maybe every week or so, I would look under businesses for sale, just because I'm interested in what's going on. And there have been a couple of carpet cleaning businesses that came up and were sold through that, so I just sort of kept my eyes on it. And I guess about 2 years in, all of a sudden there was the Oxyfresh franchise for sale. And I think they were asking either $70,000 or $80,000. I think it was maybe $80,000. And I showed that to my wife, and I said, I bet they won't sell. And months went by, and I kept my eye on it, and it was about a year. They were on there for sale for about a year. And the reason I think that they didn't sell, they were trying to get back their franchise fee, plus they were including a new, I think it was a Ford, the SUV, the small SUV, which they used as their vehicle, and they gave that a value of, in the ad they said it was worth $40,000, and so that they were trying to recoup their initial franchise fee plus the price of the vehicle that they had. And they tried to sell for, I think, more than a year, and they didn't sell. And the reason I would say that they didn't sell is because if anybody was actually interested in what they were selling, they would have then said, okay, show me your books, obviously. And they would have been able to, anybody with a brain looking at what it was, what the initial price to buy this was, and what the actual business volume was, and what the dollars were at the end of the day, would have realized this is not a very viable business. Now they did have an employee, so the owner didn't do a lot of the work. He might have done some of it, but I know that they did have an employee. So after you paid your employee, um, they wouldn't have had anything left over. And in my area, winters can really get quite quiet. We drop about 50% or so, and we are well established. So even 50% for me is I can make a living at half of the volume I normally do. And what was interesting here was something interesting in the ad about the business. They said that in the write up I believe they said that they had grossed up to $17,000. I think it was $17,000 in 1 month. I just thought that was really interesting because my average is more than that per month. So that tells you that the actual amount of money that they were working with, and don't forget that they still owed the money that they paid out for the vehicle and the franchise. That's about $80,000. That's a debt against the business. That's not a liability, not a asset. Okay, technically, well, depends on how they. But if obviously the vehicle is an asset in the sense that they own it, but it's a depreciating asset. It's business stuff. But you get my point. The point is that the investment they put in at $70,000 or $80,000, that's a lot of money to be hanging over your head while you're trying to build a business. And so if you're an owner operator, you can buy yourself a rotary and paths and some chemical and a vacuum and a few things that you need to get going, and you can do that for probably under $2,000, and you're in business. And to think that these guys have spent $30,000 just for the name and the contract that locks them into place. They can't do anything more. They couldn't change their pricing. They couldn't say to the head office, $89 is not enough money. I need to charge more. Nope, this is what we charge. We dictate the pricing, and they have no say in it. They can't go and, if there's a better machine, a cheaper machine, they have to use everything that Oxy-Fresh tells them that they're supposed to use. They can't even answer their own phone. So my suggestion to you guys that are, particularly you new guys in the business, is if you're up against something like that, it's not that they have an advantage over you. It's that you have an advantage over them. It's not about pricing. It's not about the guy that wins isn't the one that gets the highest volume of work. The guy that wins is the one that makes the most money with with the least amount of work. I actually do, volume-wise, I do of number of jobs. Well, put it this way, I do as many jobs as I want to. We actually, in the fall of this 2020, we were booked out a month and a half. And here we are in March now, and I think we're booked out at least 2 or 3 weeks. And the spring rush hasn't even begun yet. February was a great month. I could have worked all the way through, although, of course, I did take my 2 weeks off there for my rest. But, my point about this is that if the franchise, and it might be Oxy-Fresh or it might be someone else, don't be intimidated by this. You just simply make sure that You do the very best job for every single customer, but make sure that your pricing is realistic. And I actually had a message from somebody talking to me about pricing today, and I um, communicated back some thoughts. You've got to have a minimum that reflects what it actually costs you. Somebody the other day had, in one of the posts, had said that they went and did a spot or for $45 or whatever it was. Don't do that. I mean, if you are doing this as a on the side kind of business, that's fine. But if this is your number one source of income, this is your um, primary. This is what you do full time. You're doing this all the time. You've got to charge enough that you don't subsidize that customer. You can't go out and do any kind of a service for under $100, or you might as well just take the money out of your pocket and hand the customer the money, because that's what you're actually doing. It costs money to do this, and it's, if you take all of your expenses and you average them out per job, you might be surprised at how much it actually costs you. We our operating costs are about $100,000 a year. That's before I get paid. Okay, probably, yeah, more before I get paid. Yeah, isn't that crazy? But we actually make a better than average income out of our business, because believe it or not, I'm doing well over $200,000 a year. But it costs to be at this level, and it's taken us, well, we're in our 26th year now. It's taken us a long time to get to this point, although I broke 200,000 about 4 years ago, working alone, on my own, yeah. So it's doable, but and we turn work away constantly because we have such a great reputation, and every job that I do the best that I can, and we include everything. We never market price. We always market method. We set ourselves apart from everybody else. And one little point here, just in case, see, when I started, my intent was not just to become a carpet cleaner, but to establish Oxy-Dry as a carpet cleaning method. So that is the perception that we have always pushed with all of our marketing, that when people call Oxy-Dry, they're looking for Oxy-Dry the method, not simply Oxy-Dry the carpet cleaning company. And I learned to do that way back when I started the business Dryway in Victoria, and that was in 1986. And the intent back then was to establish Dryway as a method. And I learned my lesson then, and I got out of that a few years later and moved to the Okanagan, and then had to reboot myself. And when I did that, I thought long and hard about what I was going to call my business, not simply because I wanted to be a carpet cleaner, but because I wanted to create a carpet cleaning method, or at least a perception of a carpet cleaning method, because that was the key to the marketing. And the marketing has always been method marketing. And I know that there's lots of guys that say, you don't do that, you shouldn't do that, just market, but I respectfully disagree, and 26 years later, I think I can say that this has worked. So anyway, my point again is that if you're an owner-operator and all of a sudden one of these franchises, maybe Oxy-Fresh, comes into your town, it is an opportunity for you to set yourself apart and above them. And oh, I forgot one really important thing. Now, this is actually kind of funny. I told my wife, here's what to do. If somebody phones, especially if they have the coupon in their hand from Oxy-Fresh, and they say, yeah, I've got a room that I want done, and I've got your coupon in my hand, Now, after she tells them the differences and everything, and our minimum is 160, so the one room would be 160, or set of stairs, or whatever it is. I said to my wife, here's what you do. Any jobs that are below $200, try to book them. And this included jobs that weren't, didn't have the coupon. But I said, book the minimum charge jobs or anything under $200. Try to book it out about 2 weeks away. And the reason, this is a really important tip, guys, so pay attention to this one. Now, you don't necessarily do this all the time, but if the phone is ringing, do this. Put the small jobs out a couple of weeks so that, for example, let's say that Monday morning you get a call, somebody's got, a bedroom and a hallway to do, and you know it's going to be a minimum charge job. And you've got a opening, say you've got Thursday, so Monday they call, and you've got Thursday's wide open, just say nothing booked. Don't put that job there. Put that job out 2 weeks. Then you're thinking, well, why would I do that? Why would I do that? Well, because you've got the rest of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that maybe somebody will call up, and this has happened many times. They call up on Tuesday and they say, yeah, we're moving into a house, great big house, 1,700 square feet of carpeting, 2 flights of steps, and we need it done this week. Can you do it? Yes, we can, because we have nothing booked on Thursday, so we'll put you on Thursday. It'll take us most of the day to do that. It's a big, big job. And so now you're going to make, $800 or whatever it is, or we would. The small job that was pushed away a couple of weeks, maybe in the next couple of days later, they phone back and say, I found somebody who can do it for less. Well, chances are that was Oxy-Fresh that they found that could do it for less. And so what would happen is we were pushing the small jobs over to Oxy-Fresh. And so they were running around doing every job they could possibly get, but doing all these minimum charge jobs. And of course, if they go and do a job, 2 rooms or 1 room for, and it's 3 rooms for $89, well, chances are they're not going to be able to upsell that job anyway, because it's hard to justify upselling. If 3 rooms would be $89, they're not going to really be able to justify upselling to something else. So they're running around doing all these little piddly jobs, and we're doing the great big jobs where we're making far more money per hour. That was and by the way, and that actually did result in a noticeable increase in our bottom line when we started doing that. And that's a very sound business decision that you should make. Now, if you're really slow, that's, you're going to want to take on any job that you can get. But if the phone starts to ring, the volume starts to build, start pushing your little jobs further out so that you can leave room for the bigger jobs that really actually make you money. There you go. Thank you very much. And I know that there's some of you guys out there that already do that and understand that that's a great way to keep control of your appointments so that you focus on the jobs that you really want. This is really being able to choose the jobs that you want and be in control, more in control of your business. And I would guess, as I'm talking here, I'm just thinking that I would guess that the Oxy-Fresh franchise guys wouldn't actually be able to do that because they don't do their own bookings. So when somebody would phone Oxy-Fresh and they talk to somebody in Denver, they're going to put them in the first appointment available. And so they won't be able to be in control of even their own scheduling. So again, there's another advantage. There's an owner-operator that you have. So you have every advantage and you have nothing to fear. This is a great opportunity for you to push off the smaller jobs to them and focus on the jobs that make you money. And in the end of the day, you will earn more money as long as your pricing is reflecting a proper pricing, proper amount. Don't worry about trying to compete with these guys on base of price. But of course, we do square foot pricing. We're 50 4 cents a square foot. We include everything, and we turn work away all the time. Anyway, I've talked long enough. We're at 40 minutes now. Hopefully this will encourage you guys that are new and maybe a little bit intimidated by the franchise that comes into town or whatever. Some of you guys have been around a little longer. Maybe you've never heard of that last tip. Never thought of that. It's a really, it seems so obvious when you think about it, actually. But anyway, I'm gonna sign off now. So hopefully that'll help and encourage. And I'll talk to you next time. Have a good day.